Hi, it's Mick. I just want to do a short video to prepare for the yoga session where we look at the spine. And in doing the research, it really staggered me. It turns out that smoking costs our economy something like £2 billion a year in terms of remedial work and dealing with the issues of smoking causes. Alcoholism, which I contributed part towards that problem, was £3.5 billion a year cost to our economy. But the back pain, if we lump back pain with spinal issues, is £10 billion a year for our economy. So this notion of the back and the spine is $10 billion a year cost to our economy, and for America it's $100 billion a year. So this thing of the back is interesting, and of the two of those with drink and the back, I've had experience of both of those. Now what's interesting, I was trying to look at what is the difference. Obviously when I drank, I knew I was making choices that were non-productive. They were damaging to my body, but I still drank. But eventually I made the choice to stop. But my back was different. And examples of being that I used to quite happily, when I was younger, lift at 20k bass cabinets incorrectly and carry them up 3 flights of stairs to a gig. I used to sit and slouch in front of the telly for 4 hours watching reruns of a soap programme, so having no support for my posture. And I would quite regularly, when I was an engineer, drive for 2 or 3 hours to a customer, jump out the van, hoist the ladders off and the cable and be swinging that around. And lo and behold, early 30s I think it was, bang, my back went. Twisted double, couldn't move. And I had maybe 20-25 years of back pain. You just get used to. But the funny thing was, I didn't see it as my choice. Because people around me were having back problems, I thought, well, that's just getting old. And what I've learnt with yoga is drink was my choice, and I could stop that. On hindsight, my bad back, I think, was a choice. Doing those things to my back, eventually the back goes, I've had enough. It's time to stop. I was lucky. I think that yoga has helped me to put some of that to rest. I can now do things. I don't get up in the morning with a bad back. I can knock up cement. I can dig the garden. So I think I've been able to make good. And I just want to explore about the nature of the spine, the nature of yoga, and some of the things you can do in yoga to help a back. So I think one of the first questions to ask is, what is the spine there for? What's the point of the spine? The first thing it's doing is it's a load bearing machine. The spine is actually taking the load of the weight from the upper body and connecting it to the lower body. So that's one of the first things it's doing. It's there to give stability and connect these two parts of the body together. The second thing is it's a mechanism for giving mobility, to allow us to turn, to flex, to extend, all these things. So it's doing two interesting things. It's being stable and it's being mobile at the same time. And the third thing it's doing is it's protecting the spinal cord. So it encases the spinal cord, which is, we lose that, then we've got a problem. So the spine is fascinating. It's got to be stable, it's got to be mobile, and it's got to be robust enough to protect our spinal cord. And so that's the significance of the spine, can't be underestimated. And so the importance of daily maintenance of yoga, I've learned. It's taken me a long time, but I now understand the relationship between yoga and the spine, and just how critical it is we do something every day if possible. The third point is, how is the spine built? What does it consist of? Well, basically you've got 33 bones that just come down here. It acts as a spring. Actually, it's a spring-loading mechanism that gives us the flexibility to be able to rotate and take the weight. But obviously, if you stack 33 bones on top of each other, there is no robustness there. So what we have is a series of stay wires coming down, which are the ligaments, it's the muscles, it's the tendons, and they're what will give it its real strength and stability. And it's much like a radio mast. That's what's given the stability. Or if you've been tenting, you know the importance of the stay wires. If you've been tenting, you know the impact of losing one stay wire. All of a sudden the tent is unstable. If you completely lose the stay wire, you can tense up the tent with the other stay wires, but all of a sudden the tent is going to lean, it's going to be off balance. And this is what happens with the spine. If we lose muscular strength, if we have problems with the ligaments, all of a sudden we can get this lopsided effect and we start to walk off balance as the body compensates. And that's the precursor to real problems. because the essence of the spine is posture. There's a series of curves in the spine that we're looking to maintain, because those curves are what give us that spring effect. If you think of when the parachutist lands, there is this ground force coming up and the body weight coming down, and the spine is a key part of that absorption. That the spine has got this flex in these S curves. If the spine was perfectly straight, it would be wiped out. So what do we do with the spine? The spine has broadly got 6 ways to move, plus another 2 that are less mentioned. We've got flexion, where we go forward. We have an extension, where we go back. We have a lateral flexion, left rotation, right rotation. You also have elongation, which is stretching the spine. You can go through various yoga postures which create an opening and give the spine space. And you also have a compression if you're wild enough to start doing headstands, and obviously you're compressing the spine. So the spine is being moved in all of these directions, and the whole process of yoga is to put the spine through these various moves to keep it fluid, to keep it moving, and to keep that mobility effectively. And the final part is, so how do we look after the spine? And I guess in one hand it's quite simple. It's about just paying attention. It's have the intention to look after the spine, then every day paying attention to it. And we always come back to this thing of stability and mobility. The spine needs stability, and that's its prime purpose, is to be stable, and then we want mobility. The stability comes from both building strength and stamina. So strength is the capacity to draw upon the muscles and the leverage when you need it in an instant. So if you're picking a child up, if you're bending over to get something. The stamina is, so for me, if I'm backpacking, I'm going to be carrying a 12k backpack for 20 kilometers. My spine needs that ability to be able to support that over a prolonged period without damage. So I'm trying to develop both of those functions, and we do that within yoga. The mobility comes from 2 things. It comes from movement, so keeping the connective tissue moving about, to keeping the fluid in the connective tissue working, and just to keeping the body open. And there's also something called neuromuscular relationship, and that's effectively muscle memory. It's about firing the right muscle in the right time in relationship to other muscles. So the muscles actually work together, and this is muscle memory. If you're a guitarist, you make a chord shape and you know just what to do, and that's muscle memory. It's when the body can just do something without you having to direct it. And again, yoga is really, really good at that. So the ability to go into tree pose, the ability to adopt different postures without thinking about them, is that muscle memory. And that's what ensures that we start to keep our spine safe. And that's the 4 things we're trying to focus on in yoga. We're trying to build the strength, we're trying to build the stamina, we're trying to build the movement and momentum, and we're trying to create that muscle memory. By focusing on those 4 with a robust yoga practice, there is more chance we're protecting our spine and having a better life with it, really. When we're doing a yoga practice in a class or with a teacher, it's important to recognise that what you feel is not what the teacher's going to feel. You have a totally different felt experience. The teacher may do something you can't, and vice versa. And that's because of 3 things. That's the biology, the biography, and the beliefs. The biology is that it's just the body shape, it's the body size. It's the difference between women and men. Our DNA is that we will have different capacity to do different things with our spine. The biography is the fact that we've all got different histories. Okay, so you might have had an accident, I might not have had an accident, I might have certain muscle development in certain areas, so our backgrounds are so totally different. We can't assume that the way we go into a forward fold, a back bend, a lateral will be the same. You have to find a way that works for you. And the third thing is our beliefs. I know certainly when I started yoga, my belief was, well, I can't do that. And we have to go with that. We don't fight it. We have to trick the body into saying, actually, well, maybe you shift around a little bit. You can't at the moment, right? And eventually we retrain those beliefs. But those beliefs, those deep beliefs, affect what our muscles are prepared to do. And what we don't want to do is force them, because that creates discomfort, it creates pain, and we stop doing things. So in any process with yoga, think of that. It's what is your biology, what is your biography, and what are your beliefs? And you work with those, not what the teacher says. And so within the yoga practice, when we're looking at the spine, always think about what is my, and focus on what is my biology. So what does my body do? What is my biography? So what have I done with my body in the past that might limit or enhance it now? And what are my beliefs? How far do I think I can go with this? And that's good enough. I don't need to go beyond that. And over time we develop it. And within the yoga practice that we're going to do for an hour, effectively we're covering those things. We'll be looking at the stamina, we'll be looking at strength, we'll be looking at movement, and we'll be looking at muscle memory. And just a regular practice on that, for me, has given me my spine back. It's not perfect, but it's a lot more perfect than it used to be. So I hopefully within the yoga practice, then you will find the same thing. Thank you.